There's a new Malifaux book out this week, and it's full of new lore. This is not a drill. What's up everybody, Jeff here, and this is the big week because Madness of Malifaux has just launched. Now I know some of you haven't had a chance to get your hands on it yet, and don't worry, this video won't have any spoilers in it, but there will be spoilers for pretty much everything else, so be aware of that. But I had a chance to read through all the narrative, and I thought that this would be a good time to get everybody caught up on where the story left off at the end of Malifaux Burns. So I'm going to go through and talk about where all the factions were when we last saw them. So hopefully if you haven't been keeping up, or you just need a refresher, this will help you get ready to start reading Madness of Malifaux. This might be a good place to start getting into the lore. So if you know any new players, or vets who aren't really into reading the stories, then send this video their way, and maybe we can get them interested in picking up the new book. While you're here, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Come join the Discord. We've been talking about the new lore for most of this week, but of course we're sensitive to spoilers, so everything's going to be marked with a spoiler tag, so you won't accidentally read anything you don't want to. And if you like the channel and you want to support it, then take a look at the Patreon link in the description, where you can pitch in $2 to help support the channel and get some cool rewards. And with that, let's get into it. The Burning Man has been wreaking havoc on Earth and now in Malifaux as well. Its appearance was a surprise to many and a horror to all, and no one seems to truly understand this tyrant hybrid entity. It was created when the former Governor General tried to perform a ritual to ascend to tyranthood himself. But his ritual was sabotaged, and when the power built up beyond his control, the tyrant Shirufei tries to seize it and harness it for himself. As a result, the Governor General and Shirufei were melded together and became the man-shaped object in the sky, known as the Burning Man. Everywhere it appears, tears start appearing in the fabric of reality that breach the gap between Earth and Malifaux, allowing dangerous creatures to cross both ways. In addition, it has a twisting effect on the minds of the people, and cults have begun popping up that worship the Burning Man and attack anyone who doesn't do the same. Now that the Burning Man is in Malifaux, everything has changed. The Guild has always had a tough job maintaining their hold on Malifaux City. They have to fight off Arcanist terrorists, rogue necromancers, and the native Neverborn. And when the Burning Man arrived, it just introduced more chaos into the mix. The new Governor General Marlowe has been trying to take a more even-handed approach to governing and reining in some of the Guild's excesses. He likes to run things in an orderly fashion, and his insistence on bureaucracy and paperwork has started to annoy some of his top agents. As the different special divisions all prepare to respond to the Burning Man's presence, they each also have to remember to keep an eye out for their traditional foes. Lucius has fallen out of favor and decided to go take a more direct approach to solving his problems rather than manipulating them from behind the scenes. Nellie Cochran got her hands on a copy of The Flamme, a book about worshipping the Burning Man that seems to toy with people's sanity. Ever since, she's been acting a bit erratic. Perdita spent some time away from Latigo, and now she's returned to her family and is spending her time getting them back into shape after their organization fell into disrepair. Sonia Crid has sensed a familiar presence in the Burning Man that's piqued her interest, and Daciel Barker has gotten used to being in command of all of the guard, even if it means he has to fill out some paperwork. The Resurrectionists have never been a particularly unified bunch, and that's even more true now, as Nicodem is out of the picture. Dr. McMorning is on the run from the Guild, and Seamus has taken a step back from his usual ways to hide among the other members of high society. Riva in particular has felt the effects of the Burning Man, and rumor has it that she's leading a cult out in the slums. Professor Von Stuck has come up from the underworld, and Karai is still trying to find ways to bring back her boyfriend after her previous attempt failed due to Jackdaw. Jackdaw himself was once used by Zoraida to reseal the breach for 100 years, and ever since the Burning Man showed up, he's found himself strangely drawn to the strange entity. While the Resurrectionists seemed to once be fairly united, they're now off pursuing their own goals, but they'll all be a thorn in the side of the Guild, and they'll likely each try to find ways to take advantage of the chaos caused by the Burning Man. The Arcanists have also been fractured as a result of Ramos's arrest and a schism in the organization. Karis has come under the influence of the Burning Man and leads fanatical cultists as she continues to make aggressive strikes against the Guild. On the other side is Tony Ironsides, who's learning to become a better leader of the Union and has gained a reputation as a champion for the common people. Marcus has always been a loner, but he's recently come to an agreement with Titania, and she's even started sharing some of her secrets that he's using to further his craft. Charles Hoffman is still working to limit some of the damage that Ramos did, and Mei Fang still finds her loyalties split between two different masters. Rasputina is struggling to keep December under control, and Sandeep is still upset at the tragic end of Loth Bat, a man who came to him for help, and who he allowed to be tricked by the Winter Witch to come to a tragic end. Ever since the civil war erupted between Nekima and Lilith, the forces of the Neverborn have been split. One faction rallied around Titania, who's been trying to unite the Neverborn so that she can stand against the tyrants. Euripides answered her call, and though the Burning Man seems to be affecting him, he's working with Titania to try to oppose its effects. Nekima agreed to work with the Queen in order to retake her own throne as Queen of the Neverborn, but she's now begun thinking of ways that she could overthrow the Autumn Queen as well. Ever since Titania's return, Zoraida has found it more difficult for her to read the future, and with the loss of her ally Lilith, she's much less able to affect the threads of fate. Lucius has promised his loyalty to both Titania and Zoraida, and he enjoys playing the game of manipulating both of them. Meanwhile, Pandora has come under the influence of 2 tyrants, and sometimes when she looks down into her box, she finds that she's actually in the box, looking up at something else. The Outcasts were recently chased out of the city when Governor General Marlowe decided to ban mercenary work. Many of them followed Von Schill to the Badlands, where he founded the town of Freehold, a place where they could all more or less do as they pleased. They soon drew the attention of Hamlin, who attacked the settlement, and the mercenaries only just barely were able to fight him off. But as a result, disease ran rampant, killing off much of the Free Corps, and even infecting Von Schill himself, causing him to have to replace even more of his body with mechanical parts. The damage the Burning Man has done to the fabric of time harmed the Tyrant Obliteration, and as a result, Tara has been struggling to manage the power that she wields. The Victorias have just recovered from a defeat against Titania that saw them lose possession of the Masamune, a powerful sword that's inhabited by the Tyrant Shazul. Parker Barrows was captured by the Guild, and on the day of his execution, just before he would have breathed his last breath, the Burning Man showed up, and the chaos and conflagration allowed him to get away. Captain Zip still commands the infamy, and though he still goes on daring raids, he does miss his friend Parker. The inhabitants of the Bayou rarely have an opportunity to interact with the humans. Sommerteeth Jones has taken the opportunity in all the chaos to steal more shiny things, and uses his son Lenny, the Gremlin General, as cover for his crimes. Ophelia's territory contains the Red Cage Pit, the place where years ago a calamity fell, and released the tyrant that is now half of the Burning Man. Since its arrival back in Malifaux, the monsters that come out of the pit have been acting strangely, and Ophelia and her family have to constantly be on watch to prevent them from overrunning the gremlins. Ma Tucket has continued stealing from the Union, and she and her family have used the scraps they've collected to put together a mecharachnid for her to ride. Wong still has his magic bag, and though he doesn't know it, it contains Oni, who are trying to manipulate him to cross over to the other side. Meanwhile, Ulix was deep in the bayou, minding his business and tending to his pigs, when the Burning Man showed up and transformed his prize pig Honey into a flaming monster of tusks and hair. Mostly he figures that's probably better than what happened to the rest of them, because most of the other pigs just blew up. The 10 Thunders have saved the world 3 times by my count, but this hardly makes them benevolent, as the crime syndicate is still just vying for power like anyone else, even under the more reasonable control of the new Oyabun, Misaki. She's been struggling to maintain the loyalty of her people, many of whom have conflicted interests and come under the influence of outside pressure. McCabe and Mei Fang are both working undercover, but it's questionable who they actually owe their loyalty to, and Jacob Lynch is under the influence of the mysterious entity known as the Hungering Darkness. Shenlong has been trying to resist the influence of the Tyrant the Dragon, who is recalled in the presence of the Burning Man, and given the old monk the opportunity to try to plan to overcome his influence. Meanwhile, Yan Lo and Asami have been investigating the Kimon, mysterious demons from the beyond, that are threatening to invade their homeland. When the Burning Man showed up, Misaki started seeing visions of her father, who she killed in a duel, and her people have started to notice that she's becoming much more reclusive. Gretchen Janus, the current leader of the Explorer Society, is not very well understood. No one knows what her true goals are, but recently she's been calling in favors all over Malifaux and collecting ancient relics and artifacts. She sends Lucas McCabe, Jedza, and Base all around the world to investigate different secrets and bring her back the answers to her questions. Lord Cooper is less interested in these mysteries and has spent his time recently trying to hunt down Marcus, the Beastmaster who almost had him killed. With the emergence of the Burning Man, English Ivan and his Department of Ungentlemanly Affairs have begun researching ways to protect themselves from its magic. The hive-minded entity, known as Cadmus, is Gretchen's eyes and ears, and helps her to infiltrate and get spies anywhere she needs them. And Maxine has become obsessed with learning everything there is to know about the unpredictable entity. She had some success at predicting where it would go, as well as where the portals that it brings with it will open, but it seems that it's having a corrupting influence, even on someone as smart as her. Back Earthside, the King's Empire is still recovering from the aftermath of the Battle of London. The gibbering hordes and the cultists are everywhere, and new portals regularly pop up and deliver new horrors for them to have to deal with. The Guild and the King's Empire have a tense truce, and they've even had some limited cooperation with the nation of Abyssinia. The Abyssinians have had problems with human rivals, as well as the hordes and cultists, but they use their superior technology to defend themselves from all of these enemies. As the Guild struggles to recover its economic and political superiority in the Far East, the Three Kingdoms have recently gotten themselves out from under the Guild's yoke. Few people are aware, but an ancient and powerful Kimon has promised that he would lead an invasion of the Three Kingdoms from his realm beyond. And that should just about get you ready to start reading Madness of Malifaux. If anything I just went over didn't make a lot of sense to you, then definitely check out the video I did on the major world events. That gives a pretty good overview of everything that's happened up till this point. And if there's any particular character you want to learn more about, then check out my lore guide playlist, because I've now done an episode on every master that has any kind of plot significance. Sorry, Anya and Nexus. You'll get a story one day. But make sure you keep an eye out, because I'm planning on doing a couple more things involving the new book. And for now, we're going to stay away from the spoilers, but pretty soon, we'll get right into the nitty-gritty. In the meantime, I highly encourage you to read the story yourself, and if you have any friends that play the game but don't pay much attention to the lore, then send them this video, because this would be a good way to jump in if they might be interested in reading the new book. Once again, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the Discord and the Patreon. I appreciate the whole community and everyone who hangs out in both those places. On that note, huge shout out to the extremely cool kids on Patreon, Steam Powered Scoundrels and Dogmatized, and thanks for watching.